Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming David Pogue.
Well done. Well, I'm afraid that's all the time we have. It's really an honor. I actually had the chance to speak to you, I guess, 12 years ago. And it was in Wildwood, New Jersey, and I brought my children who were then tiny babies, and one of them is now in college. So clearly they were off to a good start. It's meaningful to me that this is an audience of educators, of people who've spent their lives dedicated to something that has no chance of bringing them fame or fortune, but it's just for the good of the world. My mom always hoped that I would marry a teacher. She thought, you know, what more selfless human being is there than an educator? She was devastated when I married a plastic surgeon. So but then we got divorced, so she's happy now. So anyway, so my job, first at the Times and now at Yahoo Tech, is to study not just the new technologies coming down the pike, but more interestingly, to discuss their effect on society and culture, and especially the incoming generation, the next group of kids. I'm sure you've read that the group of children who entered college last year have never known a world without the internet. I mean, it was like running water to them. It was like from the day they were born, there was an internet. So there's some fascinating changes going on. I found this picture on Flickr. I thought it would convey like drama and impact and change, and now I think it just looks like the cover of Dianetics. Have to change that. Anyway, so I have 3 beautiful children, but I swear sometimes I look at these kids and I see that. I mean, there's always been a generation gap, but I would argue that the gap in the last 5 years has widened more than any other time, and it's because of this. I don't know why they call it a phone at all. Those of you who work with children know that the last thing they're going to do is talk into it. I mean, it is a computer that's always on, but it is not for talking. They don't do that anymore. And from this is the seed. So the iPhone and Android phone, they have led to almost every interesting development that I'll be discussing today. I mean, every single thing that's affecting our lives started from this. And if you think about the reason they've packed so much into this little thing, it has a touch screen, input and out for audio and video, all these sensors, a proximity sensor, a light sensor, a tilt sensor, 15 wireless antennas, GPS, gyroscope, compass. The iPhone 6 has a barometer in it because the public was clamoring. We need a barometer. So the cool thing is that people write apps that take advantage of these components. 1.3 million different apps for the iPhone, similar number for Android. And I'm glad that I have the rest of the conference to myself because I'm going to be describing all of them. Now, I just want to tell you about one of them because to me this is such a symbol of what apps are and how it's changed everything. An ocarina is a South American wind instrument. It's a little clay flute. You blow into it and finger the holes. So this music teacher from California decided that he would write an app called Ocarina that simulates an ocarina. And it has these 4 holes, and you learn to finger them, and then you blow into the microphone. So I only know one song, but it's really great. Oops. Let's try again. So you tip it when you want vibrato. Oh, yes, thank you very much. You tip it when you want vibrato. So you can get very expressive with your phone. Your kids sit in the back of the car rotting their brains on video games. Mine are practicing their music. At the bottom, so the guy sold 1.5 million copies of this thing in 6 months. There are ocarina sheet music online, 3,500 different songs. There's ocarina videos. This is YouTube, a YouTube video of 5 college kids doing Stairway to Heaven. I don't know what that guy's doing. So at this point, millions and millions of copies of Ocarina. This guy's a multimillionaire music teacher. What are you people doing here? Get out there! Anyway, so the point is at the bottom, there's this Google Earth sort of button, and you tap that button, and it will find somebody in the world playing Ocarina, show you where they are in the globe, and you listen in. So let's try that. Here's the globe. This looks to be California. Okay, the Americans are always terrible. Okay, you suck. Okay, let's get someone from you. Okay, here's someone from. Looks like China. Chinese folk song. I want to keep going till we get someone from Tokyo. You get these 4-year-olds doing Flight of the Bumblebee. It's like amazing. Or Europe. Australia. Cool. I think if everybody had this app, there would be no more wars, right? Like, Ahmed can't play the F sharp either. We're all brothers, you know? Like, anyway, so the point is, it's not a phone. It's everything else. And one of the things that's become, you hear a lot about this term this year, the Internet of Things. I find that term so weird, so grammatically contorted. It's like, you don't say, I'm going to put on my jeans of blue. You know, it's like, who talks like that? Yoda, help you, I will. You know. So anyway, it just means ordinary household devices that are now networkable, that are now controllable by your phone. So this is an example. This is something I reviewed last year. It's a little home security camera you stick on your bookshelf, and then on your phone, anywhere you go in the world, you can peek in on what it's seeing. So you can check in on your house or your vacation house. Very cool. Although this is the ad on the lower right. This is their ad. They show a young mom at work keeping a watchful eye on her newborn back at home. Like, did they think this through? You know, oh, she's got her head between the bars again. You know, this is very cool. Internet of Things thing. This is the world's first internet-connected thermostat, the Nest thermostat. Very famous now. Google bought it for $3.7 quintillion. Basically, they discovered that 50% of Americans who buy a programmable thermostat never program it. It's too hard. So they just leave it set to 70 and that's that. I have 2 of these things. I have one upstairs and one downstairs at my house in Connecticut. And, oh, wow. Okay, so there's no one home right now but my kids. And it is 52 degrees in Connecticut. They've got it set to frickin' 81. Like I'm made of money, right? Well, so here's what's cool. So here I am in New Jersey. I have complete control. So I can just, yeah. There you go. 49. There we go. They can put on a goddamn sweater. That is, who can't love technology, you know? So next I'm going to tell you about something that has me so excited, and you're going to like think I'm out of my gourd. I'm going to tell you about a jack. Okay, it's like, so what'd you learn at the conference, honey? Guy talked about a jack. This is USB-C. So all the new devices, like this is the new MacBook. This is it on the left next to the one I'm using right here, so you can compare. It's much smaller. The screen goes and the keyboard go all the way to the edge, and it has only one jack. One jack. It has no USB. It has no Ethernet. It has no power jack. It has the one USB-C jack. And what's interesting about because it's Apple, they have to change their power connector every year. But this time I forgive them. This is what it looks like. It's the size of a Lightning connector or micro USB. And this one connector type can carry power, so it's a power cord, and video, so it's a projection thing like I'm projecting to these screens here or an external monitor, and regular USB. So it does all these things, and yet, so the MacBook is a little funny because it has only one of those. So Apple says, what if you want to connect power and put in a USB device? Well, then of course they'll sell you a splitter for $80. But anyway, but it's not just Apple. Google's devices are all coming out with USB-C. This is the Chromebooks. These are the new Google Nexus phones. Microsoft just came out with a new laptop a couple days ago. It has USB-C as well. So what's so cool about this jack is that it is the same right side up and upside down. Yeah, you never have to do, oh, god damn it. You never do that. It is the same end for end, so there's no right end. And, this is the big one, it is compatible across all brands, all devices. So you'd be like, yes, that's right. So it's like, oh, my iPhone is dead. Can I borrow the power cord from your Samsung laptop? Yes, you live to see the day. And you'd be like, oh, you have a Microsoft Windows phone. Well, no, that would never happen. No, it's like, oh, you have an Android phone. Can I use it to charge my MacBook? This is all, it does all of this stuff. It charges phones and tablets and laptops. One cable to drive them all. It is the Jesus jack. It's like this incredible thing, and it's coming your way, and you heard it here first. So, we've been hearing for years about Web 2.0. This is the concept of a website where the visitors provide all the material, right? So like the New York Times website is Web 1.0, so the owner of the website puts up the pictures and the text. But in Web 2.0, like Facebook, the visitors put up the material. So hugely popular idea. Craigslist, free classified ads in every city in America. Help wanted for sale, whatever. Flickr, where people can come and put up their pictures for all to see. YouTube, where you put your videos for all to see. Wikipedia. Whoever thought this would fly, right? An encyclopedia where any idiot can put anything. And yet, somehow, it succeeds. It's been shown to be as accurate as the Encyclopedia Britannica, which, as you might have heard, ceased publication last year. So there's no more printed encyclopedia. I used to love the joke columns in Reader's Digest my mom used to get. And one of them is a column where people send in funny anecdotes about their working lives. And this college librarian sent in a thing where a freshman walks into the library and says, "Whoa, what are all those matching books?" She says, "Well, son, that's the encyclopedia." And he goes, "Dude, somebody actually printed out the whole thing?" So I think we've crossed some kind of line. Anyway, so those are the big name Web 2.0 sites. There's also a few that I'm sure you haven't heard of that use the same central idea, which is to connect the interests of the very narrow interests of people who will never even meet through the web. This is whoissick.org. Basically, you click off your symptoms, bloody stool, blurry vision, clammy skin. It's like my kids on a good day. And then you sit back and you watch the bugs drift over your neighborhood. How awesome is that? Anyway, so the interesting thing, though, is that until now, you and the person you're transacting with will never meet. You're far away on the internet. Now, they've started doing this thing. There's not even a name for it. They're calling it the sharing economy. But it's like World 2.0. And in this world, we actually meet to connect. So in the old model, when we wanted to do a transaction or buy or sell, we would go to the brand, the store, and now we're doing business directly with each other. The classic case is Airbnb, right? So you're going to go visit a new city. So instead of buying a hotel room, which is very expensive, and they're all alike, you look over the apartments of people who aren't there, who are willing to rent out their place. You look at the pictures of the place and read about the guy, and you have a much more interesting experience. They rented out 13 million nights of lodging last year. They hope to rent out 100 million nights in 5 years, which is more than hotels rent. So hugely, hugely influential. TaskRabbit, a similar idea, except instead of renting out your apartment, you're renting out your time. So you list the grunt work you want done, teach me French, or take me to the airport, or clean my gutters, and then people bid to see who can do it for the least money. It's like fantastic. So my wife was in San Francisco, and she had a big presentation to make it work, but she woke up sick, and she's like, oh no, and I have no vitamin C or echinacea or Kleenex, or this is going to be a disaster. So I thought I would try this. I go to TaskRabbit, I type in, I need somebody to go to the drugstore and buy this stuff and deliver it to this office address. And these people underbid each other till a college kid said he'd do it for 20 bucks. So for 20 bucks, this guy went to Walgreens, got echinacea, vitamin C, and Kleenex, delivered it to her at her desk with a note that I had dictated, dropped it off, left. She thinks I'm a god. She was like, how did you, oh my God, I love you. So anyway, little tip for you there, gentlemen. Yeah. It was completely awesome. You've heard of Uber, now in 300 cities. You see, it's an app. On the left there, you see the icons of black cars cruising nearby. That is professional car service cars. You tap, pick me up. The guy comes, and then takes you where you're going. And then when you get out, it bills you automatically. You don't have to fuss with your wallet or your purse. It works internationally. It's amazing. It makes everybody feel like you've got a personal chauffeur on call, which is my theory about why it's been so successful. But it's cool, but it's also expensive. You're using a car service. So that's why this is really mind-blowing. Until now, they've had the regular service, and they've had the SUV service for even more money. But last year, they launched this, Uber X. This is not professional drivers in professional cars. This is ordinary people like us in their family cars with some time to kill. That is it. After school, in the summer, on the weekend, to make a little extra bucks. Thousands and thousands of people are doing it in every city. It's amazing. The first time I tried this, I was in Chicago. I had to get to the airport. I'm like, all right, here goes nothing. Pick me up. And she pulled up 2 minutes later. Heather, 40 years old, Honda CR-V, soccer mom. I didn't know if I should get in the front seat or the back seat. Like, how does this work exactly? And so I got in, and she's like, oh, hey, how you doing? Hey, you want a water? And like, wow. And she goes, oh, I see you have an iPhone. Here, you want to charge? Like, when has a taxi driver ever, it was nothing like a taxi, right? She didn't talk on the phone in another language or smell or hate her life. Oh, yeah, like your fathers are all taxi drivers. It was an amazing experience, and, and I asked her when I got out, I'm like, so how come you're not worried that I'm going to be some serial killer or something? And she goes, well, when you get out, your phone asks you to rate me? I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, my phone asks me to rate you. Oh, okay, nice to meet you, Heather. Anyway, completely mind-blowing. It was 2/3 of the price of a taxi to the airport. It was interesting and efficient, and I will never take a taxi again. It was fantastic. Lyft is the same idea. Citizens providing rides to citizens. But there are a lot of little examples that use the same thing, same principle. This is Parking Panda. So if you're going to JFK for a flight, instead of leaving your car at the airport for 45 bucks a night, you park it in some guy's driveway for 8 bucks. Brilliant. This is Dog Vacay. So you're going on a trip. Instead of putting your dog in a kennel, you leave your dog with a dog lover who's got kids and who will play with him and walk him and love him. This is rentoid.com. This is you list stuff that you own that not everybody in America needs a duplicate of, a leaf blower or a power drill or whatever. And you rent it to them for the weekend for $4. It's like brilliant. I live in, as I mentioned, in Connecticut. I live in Westport. And one summer, about 8 years ago, 4 families on my street, on the same block, put in swimming pools. 4 families. It was like an arms race. And so my kids were little, and they're like, Dad, can we get a pool too? And I'm like, no, we don't need 5 $100,000 holes in the ground on the same street. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll go to these other families, and I'll make them this offer. that if they'll let us use their pool when they're not home, I'll pay for half the maintenance and the chemicals. And of the 4, guess how many families said okay? 0. I told you, it's Westport. You will not put your skin in my water. You know. Absurd. Anyway, so this is very disruptive stuff, right? Uber especially. The taxi drivers are like, who's going to license you? Who's going to insure you? And there are demonstrations and tire slashings. I don't know if you read in March, in France, they were actually overturning Uber drivers' cars and setting them on fire. Yeah, you should all sign up. But you know what? You're not going to be able to put this Pandora back in the box. This is the new world. It's person to person. It saves everybody money, makes people money. It's too good an idea. Hearing a lot about wearable technology, hearing about it more than seeing it, I might add. This is Google Glass, now since off the market. The idea was it puts a little screen right over your eyebrow for you to check the things that you would normally check on your phone. So text messages and driving directions and so on. Very cool technology, very well done. But it flopped not because of the tech reasons. It flopped because of the societal reasons Google completely missed. I mean, there's a certain smugness, right? First of all, you look like a freaking cyborg walking around with these things. Second of all, there's a camera on it. That little black dot is a camera. So for all the person you're talking to knows you're filming her, or taking pictures. It's just creepy. They were banned in restaurants, courtrooms, theaters, movie theaters, God knows, locker rooms. And there arose this nickname for people who have them. They call them glass holes. And it's very well put. I mean, now Google says that they're going to try again next year. They have a new model coming out that will have a record light, so at least you'll know when you're being filmed. But you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the Segway scooter, when everybody expected cities and landscapes to change for this thing. And now, who has them? Mall cops. So these will find a niche, but it'll be very narrow, like surgery, right? You've got both your hands busy, so it can be like, doctor, what is this structure? Why, that's the liver. Like you can just look up, or aircraft maintenance, for example. So they'll find a niche. There is, however, one wearable technology that is catching on in a huge way, and that's the health trackers. We're going to buy 70 million of these things this year. And it started out just with the Fitbit and the Up Band and the Nike Band. And they basically have an accelerometer, which is a motion sensor. And from the swinging of your arm, they calculate how many steps you take every day. And from the movement of your arm when you're asleep, they try to calculate how much sleep you're getting, and how often you wake up in the night and stuff. It's fascinating stuff. You wake up the next morning and you look at your phone, and it shows you all these graphs about how you did. Insight into yourself that you normally, since the beginning of man, has been invisible to you, right? Except for 10 minutes at a doctor once a year or whatever. And you plug in your spouse and your friends and your boss. So you see not just your stats, but theirs as well. So it's, health through humiliation, basically. And it started out with these glorified pedometers like the Fitbit, but they are exploding in usefulness. There are so many of these things coming out, and not just for counting steps, not just activity trackers. This is a sunlight tracker, measures how much sun you're getting. This is a posture tracker. It beeps at you and you slouch. This is a smart scale, not just your scale, but your body mass, your heart rate, air quality, and your biological age. So my wife got one of these. She's 46, and she's a marathon runner, blah, blah, blah. She stepped on it, and it said, you're 37. So she's like, wow, this is great. You try it. So I'm 52. I got on it, and it said, you're 59. So clearly a piece of crap. Anyway, so these are the health tracking T-shirts. I mean, anywhere you can put a sensor against your skin, they're going to do it. This thing is great for joggers and stuff. It tracks your heart rate and your breathing. These are health tracking earbuds. Makes a lot of sense because it turns out this is a great place to get your pulse, to check your pulse, is in your ear where you're listening to music anyway. This is the health tracking bike helmet. These are the health tracking hats and headbands. Apparently, wearing one also makes you hostile, judging from the ad there. This is the health tracking mattress pad. It's supposed to do a more accurate job of tracking your sleep. This is the health tracking bra, the health tracking socks. This is the health tracking fork. Oh yeah, $100. This thing uses galvanic response to know when the tines are against your skin. And you have your phone sitting on the plate next to you. And if you eat too fast, if you're shoveling your food, it beeps and goes red and says, slow down. It's like having your mom with you at every meal. Now, this next example, I'm a little unsure of whether you can handle it. I hope you don't consider it offensive. I'm just the messenger here. I'm just telling you that anywhere you can put a sensor. Oh yeah. Close your eyes if you're easily shocked. This is for the gentleman to wear in times of intimacy. I don't know if you can read the bullet points there. LED performance indicator lights. Bluetooth connectivity. And I kid you not, at your option, the data can be posted in real time to Facebook. This is true. There are some places Bluetooth should not go. Anyway, so let's move on quickly. So the knock against these early health trackers is that they're not really scientific instruments. They're not medical grade. The New York Times did a great explanation of what an accelerometer is. And it shows you how in three different axes, three different dimensions, it translates the motion of this thing. The software translates it and tries to guess what your activity is by the characteristics of that motion. But the Times also pointed out that the problem with that is that the motion of doing bicep curls is identical to the act of eating Doritos. But I'm here to tell you that is changing fast. These things are getting so good, so amazing. This is my review for Yahoo Tech this week. It's the new Microsoft Band. It is comfortable and slim. It has heart rate. You can run with it. GPS. You don't need to bring your phone. It has its own GPS. Tracks ultraviolet light. It literally tells you when you're about to get a sunburn. Tracks your sleep, your heart rate, blood oxygen level, skin temperature. There are 10 sensors in this thing. There's the exploded view. Just unbelievably sophisticated. Google has one they're working on. Tracks your pulse, your heart rhythm, light exposure, the noise levels around you. This is a medical grade instrument. And Google is also working on this. This is a contact lens for diabetics. As you know, diabetics currently have to stick themselves multiple times a day to draw blood to test their insulin levels. Well, now, this thing will check your glucose levels in your tears. And it's real. Those two tiny, tiny squares you see, one is the battery, and one is the Bluetooth transmitter. So you look at your phone any time of day. It tells you exactly what your what your insulin level is. In testing now, totally amazing. So these are all very cool, but the frustrating thing about them until recently was they're generating terabytes of interesting data, useful data to researchers, but they can't get it. I heard a doctor say the cure for cancer is in there, and we can't get at it, right? Because every brand's data is protected and privacy safe and all that. So that was very frustrating. It's the biggest medical trial in all of history, and we're throwing away the data, basically. So, so this is a great thing that Apple came up with in February. It allows researchers to access the data from your phone and from your wearables. You opt in. You know what the study is, who's running it, how long the data will be kept, and what it's used for. And so researchers write these apps, and they're amazing. So I interviewed the guy at Mount Sinai who wrote the asthma app. And I'll show you just a little bit of a clip of that to show you the idea. The idea? We visited Dr. Eric Schott of Mount Sinai Hospital's Icon Institute. His team wrote the Asthma Health app. How would conducting this study differ in the research kit world?
It's like just an amazing number of differences, so you can just interrupt me if I'm going off too long. You're lucky if over the course of several years you can get 300, 500, if you're super lucky over the course of many years, maybe 1,000 people enrolled in the study. But in the first 3 days of this app being online, 3,500 were enrolled in the study. And that's in under 3 days. Like, it's just an astonishing, like, just blew us away.
The data has already started flowing in, right?
The data absolutely have already started flowing in. This is sort of an early version dashboard we have just to try to help get our heads around the data. You already see some interesting patterns occur. Breakdown by ethnicities. Do we see biases emerging there? Education levels, like smoking status. And here you can start looking at all the different types of medications. So here we're looking at a summary of what the user has put in as they believe caused certain asthma attacks that they had.
Oh, look at that. Cold, exercise, extreme heat.
When you look in specific geographic regions like New York and New Jersey, all of a sudden you see anger as one of the causes of. So whereas nationwide, that anger isn't significant enough to pop up, but it's really interesting that on the East Coast, the anger causes stress response and can slide you into a bad state.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so it's that.
That cracks me up. Congratulations, New York and New Jersey. They're starting to build the health wearable stuff into the smartwatches. So far, these aren't really taking off. The Apple Watch is probably the most successful one, but even that you don't see very often. But on the back, sure enough, there are the heart rate monitors, two cameras, infrared and optical. And I guess I'm done. Or else someone just leaned on the light switch. Oh, yes. It's your fault, sir. Anyway, overall, I think the smartwatches, you have to charge them every single night, which I think is impractical. This is the Moto 361. Look how huge that thing is. I mean, I look at that thing and I'm like, it's like wearing a tractor wheel on your arm. So I think the smartwatches are very cool, but I think these are the really early ones. And I think that, you know, we're in the Commodore 64 era of those right now. What has finally arrived, though, is robots. This is the Google self-driving car. It's driven 1.8 million miles on public roads without a single accident. Actually, not quite true. It's been in 11 accidents, but all of them were caused by human morons rear-ending it. It can't really help that, like if it's stopped at a light and somebody crashes into it. People say, you know, I don't want some robot driving the streets, you know. Well, you know what? I'd rather have that than you driving the streets. Last I heard, oh, here's the kindergartner test. Okay. Last I heard, 100% of car accidents were caused by people. So anyway, huge breakthroughs in robotics. This is the DARPA Robotics Challenge, where this is a division of our military that does advanced projects. And they had this amazing event where they offered $3 million in prizes to whoever could come up with a robot that could have helped out, helped out in the Fukushima nuclear power disaster. There were 8 tasks. The robot has to drive, get out, open a door, turn a valve to stop water, cut a hole in a wall. Then there's a surprise task, which turned out to be unplugging a big power cord, climb over some rubble, and then climb up stairs. The first round in 2013, they were allowed to have wires on them, and they had 4 hours to complete the job. And then this past spring, none of that. They had half an hour to complete the job, no wires, and they had to be autonomous. They couldn't be remote controlled once they'd entered the power plant simulation. So I took my kids. This is amazing. This is a little medley of what it looked like. So this is Carnegie Mellon's entry getting out of the car that it just drove. And once it's inside this building, it's no longer under human control. So it's going to open the door. A handle designed for humans, by the way. You have no idea how hard this is. I mean, two-footed walking robots never existed until 2 years ago. Okay, there he is walking into the plant. Has to pick up one of those power drills designed for people, cut a hole in this drywall, big enough for a person to get out. And then there's the power plug he has to unplug. There he is walking over the rubble to the right, going up a flight of stairs. It was absolutely incredible. There's no doubt in my mind that these things will be taking care of us when we are super old. This is coming along so fast. Now, lest you worry that these will rise up and take us over, here's the outtakes I didn't show you. Listen to you guys going, "Aw, it's a machine." Poor Carnegie Mellon. Oh, software glitch. There's he turned the handle without holding onto the handle. Anyway, so clearly not perfect, but remember, these are brand new. This is the first generation. To me, they're just amazing. You hear a lot about drones. They're revolutionizing, video. This is one where a guy flew his drone through fireworks. Photography, engineering, so engineers don't have to climb the skyscraper or the bridge to inspect it anymore. Pipelines. Amazon is launching this, the 30-minute delivery by drone. They show this video on 60 Minutes where you'll order something, anything under 5 pounds, and a drone will pick it up and fly it to you. So a lot of concern about this, safety and noise, and what's to stop people from just shooting your new TV out of the air, But but Amazon swears they're going to get to this. They're just waiting for the regulations to permit it. Netflix did a parody of that video that cracks me up. It was meant for showing inside the company, not to you, but I got a copy of it, so I'll show you.
Here at Netflix, we're committed to cutting-edge advancements in entertainment. Now we're getting back to our creative roots with our groundbreaking same-day home delivery subscription service, Drone to Home. That's right, our fleet of high-tech drones will deliver your disc to you within mere seconds of you adding it to your queue. Unlike other companies trying to rush unproven technology to market, we have literally spent days working out most of the bugs. And by enabling location services on your smartphone, the disc can come right to you wherever you may be.
So anyway, so those are the technologies, but the interesting stuff is the effect on kids. It's amazing the changes. I don't know if you've noticed this, but everything has to be real time. Voicemail is dead. Email is dying. Use of email by under 25-year-olds is down 62% in the last 5 years. They don't do it. It has to be Twitter, Facebook, or texting. A couple years ago at an event like this, I was trying to show how Twitter works. I'm like, look how fast it is. I need a cure for hiccups right now. And I'm like, audience, watch this. People will start giving me answers in real time. So people started sending back things like, simple, just hold your breath till Windows 8 comes out. Or check your 401k, that'll scare the hiccups right out of you. And this guy goes, I take large sips of bourbon. It doesn't stop the hiccups, but I stop caring. So I thought, wow, the Twitter audience is really a different group. As I learned later, average age 35, average income $75,000. So it's not like the regular internet. So I had this idea that I would do a book where I would ask one of those questions on Twitter every night, and put the funniest answers in the book. So like I said things like, compose the subject line of an email you really don't want to open. And people came up with stuff like, to my former sexual partners as required by law. Yeah, don't open that one. Or read what seems to have been your car. And I said, invent a Chinese proverb that sounds authentic. And people came up with stuff like, a pig with a cold still makes good bacon. Yeah, I guess so. I like this one. The pit is always smaller than the plum. And you can use these. I was with my kids at an amusement park that summer, and they're like, Dad, it's hot, I'm thirsty, I want to go home. I'm like, hey. The pit is always smaller than the plum. And it works. You know, they're just like, just shut them right up. And this one, you can use at work. You can use this with your school boards. It is dangerous to leap a chasm in 2 bounds. And no one can argue with you. And this was my favorite one. Make up a prequel for a famous movie. And they came up with stuff like, Mr. Smith MapQuests Washington. There goes Private Ryan. I hope he'll be okay. And the best. We're running low on Mohicans. Get it? It's a prequel for The Last of the Mohicans. Anyway. So, in any case, in the incoming generation, everything has to be on demand. There are music from iTunes and TV from Hulu and movies from Netflix and books and newspapers on their Kindle. Things are changing so much. I met a hiring guy from Microsoft. He told me that on applications from recent college graduates, kids are leaving 2 fields empty. The home phone number, because they don't have one, and the email address. Text me, you know. And I told that story at a talk, and a guy told me afterwards that he took his daughter to take your daughter to work day. She's 9. She had never seen a cord on a telephone before. She had never seen that curly... She picked up his desk phone, and she's playing with it, and she goes, Dad, how come they have this... Oh, I get it. So you don't lose it. Oh, my God. Anyway, so the bottom line is there are big trends happening, big changes. These are the things that are sort of on the way out. Anything with disks and wires, anything that's stationary, the one-way communication from the brand to the customer, the store and forward model of voicemail and email. And then these are the things that are sort of on the way in. Anything that's on demand, streaming and portable and wearable, wireless, real time. The number one question I get from my readers and viewers is, look, I just got this phone 3 months ago, and now it's obsolete. How are you supposed to keep up? And I hear there's a lot of fear. You know, is this phone going to give me cancer? Are our children going to become antisocial robots with their heads buried in the screens all the time? And I don't know for sure, but this I do know, that every time society has faced a new technology, every time, we're scared of it and we predict the worst. When the microwaves came out in the 50s, they were said, or 70s, I mean, they were said to cause cancer. Remember that? Everyone was terrified of them. Guess what? They don't cause cancer. They're just radio waves. When airplane travel began in the 20s, commercial air travel, there were cardiologists in the journals, medical journals, saying, don't fly these things. The blood will pool in the back of your heart and kill you. Guess what? That isn't what happens. When the tractor came around in the 1850s, it was said to be the work of the devil. Every new technology is terrifying. But somehow we muddle through, we sort it out. We are saying the internet is going to rot our kids' brains, right? But for us, it was the TV. TV watching was supposed to rot our brains. And I guarantee you, your parents were told that the radio would rot their brains. Every single thing, the older generation clucks at the next one. It is human. It is a natural evolutionary fear of the unknown. It's probably healthy. We sort the good technologies from the bad. The kids may look like aliens sometimes, but that is the new status quo. Or to put another way, don't worry, because The pit is always smaller than the plum. Thank you very much. I see the piano there. There's a piano there. Do you mind if I use that? Okay, yeah, get off my stage. By pure coincidence, I see that there is indeed a beautiful grand piano sitting out here. And as you might have heard, I used to be a theater conductor in New York. And people sometimes ask, do you still do that theater stuff? And the musical theater stuff. And I say, yes, I have a new thing where I write new lyrics about the tech industry to old songs. Do you want to hear one of these? Do you really think you had a choice? All right, so this is one of my favorites. This is a medley of the history of downloadable music and videos in 2 minutes. It's 9 o'clock on a Saturday. The record store's closed for the night. So I fire up the old iTunes music store, and soon I am feeling all right. I know Steve Jobs can find me a melody with $1 pricing that rocks. I can type in a track and get album names back while still in my undies and socks. Sell me a song, you're the music man. My iPod's got 10 gigs to go. Yeah, we might prefer more compatibility, but Steve likes to run the whole show. I heard Desperate Housewives was great last night, but I ate a bad piece of cod. As I threw up my meal, I said, it's no big deal. I'll watch it tonight on my pod. And now all of the networks are joining in. $2 a show without ads. It's a business those guys always wanted to try, but only Steve Jobs had the nads. Sell me a show, you're the TV man. Steve's got the first TV store. Yeah, the DVD costs less per episode, but who watches those anymore? They say we're young, don't watch TV. They say the internet is all we see. But that's not true. They've got it wrong. See, all our shows are just 2 minutes long. Hey, I got YouTube. I got YouTube. They say Gen X won't follow news. The New York Times can only stand to lose. If all the papers go away, how will we learn the stories of the day? Dude, we got YouTube. Make that GooTube. See, because Google bought YouTube. So they call it, oh, never mind. All right. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, I have a tribute to the RIAA. This is the Recording Industry Association of America. That's the trade group that's been suing kids for downloading songs. Young man, you were surfing along, and then, dumb man, you downloaded a song, and then, young man, copied it to your pod. Then a phone call came to tell you you've just been sued by the RIAA. You've just been screwed by the RIAA. Their attorneys say you committed a crime, and there better not be a next time. They've lost their minds at the RIAA. Justice is blind at the RIAA. You're depriving the bands. You are learning to steal. You can't do whatever you feel. Know what? They will suit your butt clean. They say, so what? If you're only 13. And you know what? They were equally mean to an 80-year-old grandma. CD sales have dropped every year. They're not greedy. They're just quaking with fear. Yes, indeedy. What if their end is near and we download all our music? Yeah, that would piss off the RIAA. No plastic discs from the RIAA. What a way to make friends. It's a plan that can't fail. Haul your customers off to jail. And who'll be next for the RIAA? What else is vexing the RIAA? Maybe whistling a tune, maybe humming along, maybe mocking them in a song. Thank you so much. You want to do questions or if you have any questions, I'm delighted to help out. How to fix your printer, what camera to buy, anything at all. Well, it's like I've answered all of it. Unless there are hands up and I just can't see in the dark. Just stand up and start yelling. Okay. Well, thank you, and thank you for all you do.